Yahweh, you search me and you know me. You know if I'm standing or sitting. You read my thoughts from far away. Whether I walk or lie down, you're watching. You're intimate with all of my ways. A word is not even on my tongue, Yahweh, before you know what it is. You hem me in before and behind, shielding me with your hand. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, a height my mind cannot reach. Where could I run from your spirit? Where could I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you're there. If I make my bed in death, you're already there. I could fly away with wings made of dawn, or make my home on the far side of the sea. But even there your hand will guide me, your mighty hand holding me fast. If I say that darkness will hide me and night will be my only light, even darkness won't be dark to you. The night will shine like the day. Darkness and light are the same to you. You created my inmost being. You stitched me together in my mother's womb. For all these mysteries I thank you, for the wonder of myself. For the wonder of your works, my soul knows it well. My frame was not hidden from you while I was being made in that secret place. Knitted together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my body even there. All of my days were written in your book, all of them planned before even the first of them came to be. How precious your thoughts are of you, God. How impossible to number them. I could no more count them than I could count the sand. But suppose I could, you would still be with me. Holy wisdom, holy word.
Thanks be to God.
Grace and peace to you from the one who is, the one who was, and the one who is to come. Let us turn our hearts this morning to the love of God and God's love for all the world. What if all sin, all separation, has its roots in our separation from God? How can the world be different when we truly know that we are beautifully and wonderfully made? A few words about words as we begin. One definition of sin is that which separates us. Our minds might more easily slide into long, reiterated concepts of sin as good or bad, right or wrong, black or white, dualistic binary thinking. This understanding can be helpful to a point, but it has its developmental limitations. Much like telling children, because I said so, there comes a time in our spiritual lives where deeper understanding is needed. And so we move to navigating concepts meant to establish boundaries by frames like safe and unsafe, kind or selfish, healthy or harmful. Sin is also meant to define boundaries, to weigh and understand our actions and our relationships, to guide us in our choices, especially when we are able to move beyond ideas centered in break the rules and you will be punished. If all there is to following and loving God is a checklist of sins to avoid and a ticket to heaven, that doesn't really leave any room for a relationship. And relationship is what God desires most and is the greatest gift we are offered. That is how I'm talking about sin today. Sin as what causes separation. What breaks down instead of builds up. What brings death instead of life. What estranges us from God and one another when we are built for connection. I'm also pointing to the difference between separate and separation. When two people are in a relationship or a marriage, we know that they are still two individuals with hopefully healthy boundaries. But when things break down and they separate, we understand that to mean that there is a new distance, a moving away from each other, a change or reduction in connectedness. So when I ask, what if all sin or separation begins with our separation from God, my beginning point is not that we are God and God is us. God is God, and we are God's beloved. We are separate but invited ever closer until our lives end and we join in the dance of the Trinity, experiencing fully in death what we have experienced in part in life. Part of what comes with navigating being human is sin. It is the ramifications of thoughts, words, and deeds, some done, some left undone, that cause us to feel distant from ourselves, our neighbors, and even God. How does this happen? Why is this part of the human condition? Volumes and volumes have been written. Eons of verbal tradition have explored. Art and song and poetry have plumbed the depths of this question. So I am certain it will not be answered here today. My wondering today is, how does our struggle to understand that we are fully and completely loved by God play a role in our actions when we cause harm, intentionally or not, to the world and one another? And more importantly, how is embracing our belovedness key to loving one another and all of creation? I struggled growing up to know if I could be loved by God. And that impacted me. All around me were voices telling me that I most certainly could not be loved by God. Not if I couldn't somehow ungay myself. And boy, did I try. When the starting place of understanding was, how can I be good enough for God to love me, I was lost. There was no hope. But as I have grown over the last 40 plus years, I have discovered that the God I follow is a God of hope. A God whose beginning place is not in condemnation, drivenly watching for a reason to reject, but whose starting place is love, and whose drive is to repair and reconnection when separation happens. If we believe that we are innately not enough, we are caught in constant striving, clamoring, self-elevating, and competition. If we believe at our very core that we are lacking, no wonder we find ourselves pushed by fear and shame to build ourselves up, often at the cost of relationship and harm to neighbor, the earth, and even further harm to ourselves. If love and worthiness, if love and acceptance are scarce, we are compelled to fight for them, to prove our worthiness, to push others out of the way so that we might get what we feel we need. Our ancient sacred text today directly challenges this as our starting place. Psalm 139 tells us of a God who begins in abundant love. A God who knows us through and through, more deeply and clearly than we could ever know ourselves. A God who knit us together while in the womb, and will be with us no matter where we find ourselves. The translation we use today renders verse 14 this way. For all these mysteries I thank you, for the wonder of myself, for the wonder of your works. My soul knows it well. Many other translations use these words. I praise you, because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. Do you know, deep down in your bones, down at your core, that from the moment of your creation, you have been fearfully and wonderfully made? Or, as even other translations state, beautifully and wonderfully made. That the God who made the cosmos and whose works are wonderful, that God made you and declared you good. What a gift to start from this place. To start not from an idea of, quote, original sin, where humans are innately unworthy disappointments who couldn't live up to God's expectations, but to start from our belovedness. Yes, it is true. We all sin and fall short. Like babies learning to walk as we long to grow. Who of you, seeing your toddler fall to their bum, taking those steps, would declare to them, you are utter disappointments, destined to always fail? There is wisdom in the story of Adam and Eve in the garden, but we have missed almost all of it when we twist it to the point of God is great and we are bad and unworthy of love. This foundation not only hurts us as individuals, but its tentacles drive much of the hurt we give and receive in this world. It can be hard to believe that we are beautifully and wonderfully made for many reasons. For many, who? Me's? Me in my old age and barrenness, said Sarah. Me, the weirdo dreamer, said Joseph. Me with my stutter, said Moses. Me, the widowed foreigner, said Ruth. Me, the smallest of the brothers, said David. God, you are choosing me as if you know I am beautifully and wonderfully made. And as Father Rohr says in our reading today, the only difference is whether or not you choose to accept that. Our ancient stories tell us over and over of ordinary or rejected ones whom God chose. Not because they were good and sinless. Not because they looked like the cream of the crop to the world around them. But because they, like all of us, were beloved by God in their ordinariness. So, whatever the litany in your heart is, the list of not enoughness, I invite you to root yourself in these words. I am beautifully and wonderfully made. Whenever those voices start. Portland's Pride Festival is next week, and I am sad. I am sad because this is the second year, after more than a decade, that Central will not have a booth at the waterfront. I'm looking at Vicki and remembering setting up that first booth, figuring out how to put things up, running to Safeway for candy and rope. a decade of that work. This is one of those losses in Central's decline that hits hard. Central has been a reconciling in Christ congregation for over 25 years. We have a million stories about growing into that identity as an affirming church. And this is one. In addition to walking in the Pride Parade, Central would staff a booth all weekend, welcoming festival goers to make bracelets, grab a piece of candy, learn about a welcoming congregation. The booth was staffed with all ages, new babies to gray-haired grandmas and grandpas. For many, it was a chance to experience affirmation and welcome where they had only previously experienced rejection and judgment. It was a place of reconciliation and healing. The most popular item at the booth each year, buttons made by Jeff Bethke's family. Queer folks would even be sure to return year after year to get new ones, to tell us stories of sharing the button they had gotten the year before, of the joy of hearing and claiming for themselves what the buttons declared. This verse from Psalm 139. Beautifully and wonderfully made. As is the tradition here at Salt and Light, we now turn to one another to share the word, to be the word, to embody the word. This means that if you are comfortable, you are invited to turn to someone and join in 5 to 7 minutes of one-to-one conversation, or a small group if that's more comfortable. And if that is not what you're feeling today, you are welcome to step into the sunroom and grab a beverage, to check out the garden, or to just contemplate in your seat, whatever feels most comfortable to you. So if you're willing to engage, the conversation that you can dialogue with each other about or wonder about in your heart is, what does it mean to you to know that you are fearfully and wonderfully made? So I'll keep time for you. You'll have about 6 minutes to just open up that topic of embracing our fearful and wonderful wholeness that is our birthright and gift from a loving God.